So this video is going to cover how you adapt your writing to different cultures and different audiences. So adapting your writing to Asian culture. In Asian cultures such as Japan and South Korea, it's essential to maintain a high level of politeness and formality in writing. Use honorifics and respectful language when addressing individuals. For example, instead of the casual greeting of good morning or good afternoon, followed by an appropriate honorific or a title. So in Asian culture, you bow to the elder, someone older than you, and instead of young boss, Asian culture businesses, they honor the older bosses. So anybody older is given more respect. So when writing for Asian audiences, politeness, formality, and indirect communication are key. And so be mindful of writing in a formal tone and in using a lot of yes sir, yes ma'am, and lots of titles. So always be aware of what titles your colleagues have. For instance, in English, titles would be like Dr. Smith or John Smith, PhD. So PhD, that's considered a title. And so in Chinese culture or in Japanese culture, they have total different system of titles. And so you have to become familiar on how you address people. So just like you don't say Ms., you got to know the difference between Ms. and Mrs. in America. And there's a whole way of addressing people. So you simply pay attention to how people are being addressed. And if you hear someone being called Tomaka-san, then you would go follow suit and say, Mr. Tomaka-san, or Tamaka-san, whatever the other people address him, you do likewise. You don't just say, hey Joe, what's up? You don't go by first name if you don't know someone really well, especially in Asian cultures, because in Asian culture, they really cherish and treasure formality, because that's a way of showing respect. And so indirect communication, many Asian cultures value indirect communication. Be prepared for implications and read between the lines. Instead of directly stating a disagreement, write a more diplomatic response that implies your point of view without causing offense. Adapt your writing to European cultures. So European cultures, especially in business and formal settings, often favor a formal tone. Use titles and last names when addressing individuals, and maintain a professional style. Begin emails with a formal salutation like, Dear Mr. Smith, instead of, Hey John, what's up there? European audiences often favor formality and concise communication. Use titles and last names and keep your writing professional and to the point. So Europeans generally appreciate brevity in written conversation and written communication. Get to the point quickly and avoid excessive elaboration. Write a concise and clear subject line in emails to European colleagues to convey the main message. How to adapt writing to African cultures. Many African cultures have a rich tradition of storytelling. Incorporate a narrative or incorporate story elements and anecdotes into your writing to engage readers. For instance, when writing a report, start with a real-life story related to the topic to capture the reader's attention. And also respect for elders. In many African cultures, elders are highly respected. Address them with appropriate titles and show deference. Use titles like chief or elder when addressing older individuals in written communication. African cultures appreciate storytelling and respect for elders. Incorporate narrative elements and show deference when addressing older individuals. Adapting writing for South American culture. South Americans value warmth and personal connections. Use friendly and welcoming language in communications. Start emails with a friendly greeting like hello or dear someone's first name. I hope the message finds you well. Avoid confrontation in South American cultures. South American cultures often prioritize avoiding confrontation. Be diplomatic and tactful when addressing sensitive topics. If providing feedback, use constructive and encouraging language to soften feedback, to soften criticism. For South American audiences, warmth, friendliness, and avoiding confrontation are essential. Use friendly greetings and be diplomatic in your writing. Cultural sensitivity. So as you can see from the previous slides, cultural sensitivity is crucial. Research open-mindedness and empathy are your allies. Avoid assumptions and stereotypes. Audience analysis. Now that we understand cultural considerations, let's explore how to tailor your writing to specific audiences. So what is audience analysis? The process of understanding your readers' needs, preferences, and expectations. Understanding audience variations. Understanding your audience is the foundation of good writing. Remember, every audience is unique. You need to consider their cultural background, preferences, and expectations. Watch your tone. When tailoring your message, consider language choice, tone, and style. Use examples and anecdotes that resonate with your audience. Simplicity for clarity. You can explain complex medical information to patients. Use plain language and avoid medical jargon. So keep it simple. Language choice. Formal versus informal language. Audience. Writing a business email to a client. Use formal language with proper titles and last names. Slang and jargon. So if your audience is a tech-savvy group of colleagues, then you can use industry-specific jargon and tech terms. We need to optimize our SEO strategies. So that means that if your audience is a bunch of experts, then you can use a lot of jargon and you can use a lot of technical terms. If your audience are a bunch of beginners, then you're going to have to define your words and talk slowly, write in simpler English. Formal versus casual tone. And so formal tone. So in a formal tone, your audience, for instance, if you're writing a job application or a cover letter, then your audience is going to be your potential boss or employer. And so in that case, when you're writing a job application or a cover letter, you want to maintain a professional and respectful tone throughout the letter. If you're going to write to friends and family, then you can write a casual and friendly tone, and you can use a relaxed and informal tone, like sharing personal stories and using casual language. And if you're writing a condolence letter to a grieving friend, you can use empathy and use supportive tones and express deep empathy and support, offer condolences, and avoid overly cheerful language. Narrative versus academic style. So a narrative style is a more informal style. So if you're at church and you want to talk about your faith journey, then that would be, your audience would be a bunch of church members. So always be aware of your audience. And so incorporate personal anecdotes, vivid descriptions, and a narrative structure to engage readers. So this is where you would write similar to what you would be writing for a creative writing class, or if you're at church talking about how you got your faith in God, your faith journey, any kind of personal story, that would be considered narrative style. Academic style is when we use narrative style, we can use a more less formal, more casual tone of English. Then when we write academic style, that's when we write a research paper for a scholarly journal. And then you have to use a formal, objective, and structured style with citations and references. So in English 101, I'm trying to teach you how to write a research paper with third-person case. And you have to avoid using I, my, we, our, first-person case. And you have to avoid using you and your, because first and second person case are too conversational. So if you're going to engage in academic writing, you have to use third person case, he, she, and they, for a more professional tone. And then you have inspirational writing versus international style of writing. So in inspirational writing, for instance, if you're going to write a motivational speech to a group of students, Then you use uplifting and motivational language. You share success stories, and you use rhetorical devices like metaphors and quotes. If you are in an audience of many different cultures, then you are going to write in what I call the international style of writing. In other words, you are culturally sensitive to the different cultures of the different people in your audience. So if you're writing a diversity and inclusion policy for a multinational company, then you have to use language that promotes inclusivity, avoids stereotypes, and respects cultural differences. In conclusion, remember that effective adaptation of writing depends on a deep understanding of your audience's preferences and expectations. It's essential to conduct audience analysis and, when possible, seek feedback to ensure that your language choice, tone, and style align with your audience's need and cultural context. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to email me anytime.